Hi, my name is Audrey Warren, and this is my informative speech for my public speaking course. Here are my notes, my visual aid, and then my audience. Here you go, Addie. Talking about mental health and depression is a difficult topic to talk about because for a long time, no one spoke about it. Have you ever dealt with depression or known someone that is dealing with or has previously dealt with depression? Recent surveys indicate that as many as 1 in 5 teens have clinical depression. This is a serious problem that calls for prompt and appropriate treatment. Mental health, including depression, needs to be talked about because we need to learn how to talk about depression so we can help others. We also need to help remove the stigma surrounding depression as well as promote treatment. Now let's talk about how talking about depression can help you and others. One way is by utilizing social media. Social media apps are useful tools because your peers and followers always watch what you post. You can use social media to share encouraging quotes, informative facts, suicide hotline numbers, and treatment centers. Some people are more comfortable talking about mental illness and depression over social media by sharing posts online rather in person. This is all about your comfortability level. Sometimes it's easier for you to talk about mental illness or depression online when you don't have to be face-to-face with someone. Another situation would be everyday situations. So ways to bring up depression and suicide awareness during casual situations. An example would be if you're watching a TV show or a movie with your friends or family. So you can go as in-depth as you want to about this topic as much as you are comfortable. The next one would be sharing your experience or recovery narrative. Now this can be a powerful experience as it can give others hope and show that they are not alone. It also helps break the stigma surrounding depression. According to the Impact of Mental Health Recovery Narratives on Recipients Expanding Mental Health Problems, Qualitative Analysis Change Media by Egglestone, Ramsey, McGranham, Birdsley, Hugh, Pollock, Reaper, Yor, Rowe, Gilhead, Thurncroft, Bacht, and Slade, helpful outcomes of receiving a recovery narrative can be connectedness, validation, hope, empowerment, appreciation, reference, shift, and stigma reduction. Now these are all super important things that can help someone struggling with depression. Another point you could do is encouraging people to get help. If someone you know is showing the signs of depression, encourage them to seek help. Depression is a serious illness that requires treatment, just like any physical illness. If you have an injury or a broken bone, you go to a hospital to receive help and treatment. It should be no different if you have a mental illness. They both require treatment. Another point is talking about and raising awareness and how important it is. By increasing depression and suicide awareness in your social circles, you're helping those around you. And each of these points are just different tips or tricks that you can use or work with depending on what works best for you and your comfort level. Next, I will be talking about how raising awareness can reduce the stigma surrounding mental health. Society likes to not talk about mental health, despite the seriousness of mental illness and depression. There is still a societal stigma associated with it. Many don't truly understand it, and this is super sad because it can lead to them belittling those who do struggle with depression. Society also has created a taboo surrounding depression and a stereotype for people who have a mental illness. These stereotypes come to be by popular images made by society. According to stereotypes, stigma, and mental illness, learning from fieldwork experience by Louise and Ziviani, sensationalized popular images of mental illness and some aspects of academic and clinical education seem to have adversely affected students' perceptions. This also sadly puts fear in people. This is what makes them feel alone, ashamed, and embarrassed to talk about what's going on. And it makes them feel like they need to keep to themselves what is happening, because they are afraid of society's actions. According to the Australian and New Zealand Journal of Psychiatry by Bonnery, Griffins, Jorn, and Christian, many people reported they felt embarrassed about seeking help from professionals and believed that other people would have a negative reaction to them if they sought help. And this goes back to believing that mental illness is taboo and the stereo of people with mental illness. That is why we need to talk about it to get rid of this. Finally, I'm going to talk about prompting treatment. So there are definitely some do's and don'ts that you need to know. Timing is very important. There are times and places to have a serious conversation, especially when someone is emotionally fragile and struggling. So a crowded restaurant or somewhere that's super busy and it's super hard to have a serious conversation would definitely be a don't. The next one would be a do would be having privacy and no distractions. Make sure you're empathetic and not judgmental when you're talking to someone. Make sure you use I statements like, I'm here for you, I support you, I love you. Those help the person struggling with depression. Your loved ones could be defensive when you start this conversation. So make sure you don't get defensive in return and stay loving and supportive because they're struggling. You can also share your knowledge about depression. Your loved one may not know they're depressed and may not know much about depression. So they might not know that it is treatable and something that they can work on and fix. The next one is share if you have a personal positive experience with treatment. Telling them about your experience and your treatment that was helpful and beneficial to you might encourage them to receive treatment of their own. Mental health, including depression, needs to be talked about because learning how to talk about depression can help you and those around you. It also helps remove the stigma and prompt treatment. Don't be afraid to talk about mental health, including depression. Talking about depression can help educate you and those around you. Thank you so much. Okay. My visual aid, my notes, and my audience.